Hello, once again, we are back with Baobab Chats, where we discuss different issues that is happening around the world. Today, I'm joined by two beautiful ladies. I've got Tendai, all the way from Warsaw in Poland, and I've got Farai in Australia. Today, we brought another interesting topic, cultural adaptations and change in foreign lands. I'm sure most of us have traveled in different countries, and we have seen how people do things there. So, without wasting much time, I'll allow the ladies to introduce themselves, and then we just dive into it. Thank you. Tonight, you can go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm glad to be back to on Baobab Chats. I'm from Zimbabwe, based in Warsaw, Poland, and I've been here for 5 years. Looking forward to this conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I think you're on mute, Farai. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Farai. All right. While Farai is setting up his stuff, we can just dive into it. I'm sure Tendai, you have had many experiences in this foreign land where there is different cultures and different things that they do. Maybe you can just take us through what was the major cultural difference that you've experienced so far in the last 5 years you've been staying in Poland. You can just take us through that.
Okay, so for me, it's been a hell of a journey because so many differences considering that where I come from and where I live. So the first thing is just how generally people carry themselves in public. It's just so different from here in Poland and back home. So I figured out here people walk very fast, they're quiet, they don't chit chat like we do. You know, when we get into the store, we just start asking you, oh, does this dress look nice? You know, we don't, but here it's so different. Everybody's quiet and they're minding their own business. So in the beginning, it was really difficult to understand, did I do something wrong? Are these people mad about something? But only to learn that it's something that happens in their culture a lot. So it was the way they carry themselves out there and language. And I guess I'll talk more as we go.
All right. Thank you so much. Farai, let's hear from you. Are you sorted? We still can't hear you. There's something wrong with your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Yes, my name is Farai. I have lived in Australia for 5 years now, as well, same as Tendai. Would you be able to repeat the question? So the question about the next question, I guess. Sorry.
All right, that's fine. I was just saying, as an introduction, what is the major difference that you have cultural difference that you experienced in the last 5 years that you've been in Australia, as compared to I know you're coming from a background in Zimbabwe where there's a lot of different things that you were doing back then that you're no longer doing, that you can't do in where you are staying now. What was the challenge? What is the challenges that you've been facing in Australia?
Yeah, well, culturally, the way people communicate with each other is different. So in Zimbabwe, we would probably say Mrs. this or Mr. that, you know, someone who's older than you. But here, you call them with their first name. So when I got here and I was calling people with, like, you know, calling people Mr. this and Mrs. that, they were just so shocked and they were like, don't call me that. And so it took a long time for me to get my head around how to like call people and also how to chat with people. Like you can talk to someone who's 50, like they're your friend. Whereas in Zimbabwe, you have to be very, you know, traditional. You have to be very respectful. So, you know, it was quite difficult. But then when I went home as well, I found it a little bit difficult to adjust back because now I was so used to it. So yeah, but now, you know, I sort of I'll speak a little bit more about how I've managed to work through
So,
it,
so, so,
I guess.
basically, you're saying now the people out of Zimbabwe, they don't respect the say part or the madam part or the mem part. They want to be called by their first name, which is interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same. I've experienced the same as well, where I used to call, like, when I see someone, I say, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. And they would laugh at me and say, hey, my name is so. Why don't you just call me with my name, you know? Or why don't you just call me the way I want to be called? Which was a challenge. Today I faced the same there in terms of calling each other, especially in the workplaces, workplace environment.
Yes. In the workplace, yes, you have to call each other by name. And here it's really different because in the workplace you find that somebody you don't work with directly, you might not even communicate with them at all. I mean, here people don't talk to each other a lot, like small talk or anything. So if it's my manager that I'm dealing with, or it's a colleague that I'm dealing with, I can call them by name. But generally in the workplace, the atmosphere is really very different and tense. I mean, we can't meet in the kitchen from someone from department A and just say, oh, hi, how are you? How's the weather? It's just so tense. And for me, that part was really, really difficult. Like we're used to interacting a lot around. So I've faced the same thing in terms of calling, respecting, and also just general talk. How do you approach somebody that you, in a workplace that you don't work with directly, or just generally the culture difference of addressing people older than you that you work with? My point being, even if I work with someone in the older than me, sometimes I can't even just greet them. But in our culture, we're used to, if we meet someone who's older than you just respect them and greet. So yeah, I have faced that before. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I think there's like a technical difficulty there or something. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying, that in the workplace, you know, you see someone who's most senior and they are sort of like, you know, they're the most senior person there, but they say, call me this by my first name. And you find it very difficult, you know, and
yes.
yeah. So it's quite something. It's quite something.
So how is it generally in Australia, like when you are in the shops and when you go around, do you guys have a lot of chit-chatting about the weather, about general stuff, or it's different?
Yeah, so like I was pretty shocked when you said in, you know, Poland people don't really talk to you, but here people are so keen to talk to you, and especially if you have African braids. I mean, like they're not really generally African, but if you've got braids, people just, you know, want to touch your hair and they say, oh, sorry, where are you from? How long did it take? And before you know it, they're telling you about how their daughter went to this other town and their whole life story. And I just found that contrast very different to how it is here, because people here want to talk to you. They really want to tell you their life story, their history, their family history, their everything. So it's very interesting how different it is. Yeah. Yeah, Lennon, we lost you there for a bit.
All right. Sorry. No, I'm back now. Something happened, but I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. We are continuing with our conversation, cultural differences and adaptations in foreign lands. So my next question was gonna be, so how are you guys getting around, these cultural differences in wherever you are? How are you managing it? I mean, because sometimes it can be traumatizing, it can be stressful, where you find yourself you are the only one who's different, and you're trying to gel in with these people. How are you guys coping with these things? How are you doing it?
Oh,
Maybe I can give it to Tendai.
I'll say when you're in Rome, you do what the Romans do. At least try to do what the Romans do. So, um, for me, I've tried to like integrate, because I mean, there's a lot to learn, and there's some values that you keep as being who you are, but there are some things that will be great to learn. For example, there are some basic things that you do when you enter somebody's house here. You always have to take off your shoes, always. So you cannot walk into a person's house without shoes. That's something that you really have to learn, despite being from a. And there are also some traditions like for holidays, like Easter and stuff. And this serious Christmas decorating. I mean, we do that at home, but not really. But we've adapted so much. You just learn as you go, and making these Christmas cookies, gingerbread, and stuff. It's not something that we do often, but I think for me, it's been actually interesting to get to know some of the cultures and learn them. It makes your stay better in a place. There are some that are hard, like for example, meeting our neighbors. I've lived here for quite some time, but I don't know who my neighbor is. But we are used to be warm. We are used to being warm to our neighbors, chit-chatting. But that part I can't change. So I can say generally I've learned to adapt some of the things which are very interesting to me, but some it's just not who I am, so I can't.
It's interesting.
I
Sometimes you just feel like you want to go to the neighbor and just say good morning, like what we used to do back home, And I feel what you're trying to say that, and it's difficult. Sometimes you just walk outside of your gate. You don't even greet anyone. It sounds weird, And Farai, your take on this?
Yeah, it's sort of similar to Tendai's, where you sort of just adapt and do what the Romans do. Here people are also very serious with their decorations. They take the holidays very seriously. The Easter egg hunts. Easter's coming up soon, so everything is very important. So I've learned to start taking the things that people here take very seriously because you just have to sort of blend in. But otherwise, I completely agree with what Tendaya said, is you just sort of do what they do. But then when it comes to certain things that you don't do or that you're not used to in your culture, then you don't have to, you don't feel obligated. I like the fact that Australia is very multicultural. There's a lot of people from different nations. So everyone's sort of very tolerant of so many different kind of nations. So everyone's used to seeing like Asians and Africans. So it's quite nice in the sense that they actually find your culture very exciting. They want to know more about it. So so I feel like they want to know about your culture, but then they also expect you to kind of blend in. Like, for example, communication is a big thing. Australians have a lot of slang, interesting slang. The one time someone was like, "Oh, I'll meet you this avo," and I'm like, "Avo?" And I was thinking the only avo I know is an avocado. But all they meant was, "I'll meet you in the afternoon." So, you kind of use that language. I know. Or a Barbie, "Do you want to come to the Barbie this afternoon?" And I'm like, "Barbie?" The only Barbie I know is a doll, but a Barbie is actually a barbecue. So it's all these little things that you start to adapt, because that's how people communicate, and they used to say good day, and so you end up just saying good day. But if you go to Zimbabwe and you walk in town and you say good day, people would just be like, why would you even greet me? Like, I don't even know you, like that, like, in town, in the public, so it's quite interesting how, but you just sort of blend in, I guess, but not too much, I guess. They also appreciate you standing out. Yeah.
Interesting. And my next question was going to be, I wanted to read Lien's comment there on Facebook. If you can just bring it back, I just want to read something. There's something that is very interesting there. It says culture limits the fun sometimes. Create your own fun because of the modern times. Our kids watch online and always ask, "Where are the Easter bunnies?" You know, interesting. Thank you so much, Lian, for that. I wanted to find out. I mean, sometimes when you go back home, let's say you've been out of your country for like 5 years. You guys have decided, and when you go back home, how do you find it? I mean, getting back to where you used to what you used to do, and now because you're being adapting to something different, and now how do you gel now back to your normal where you were born? How do you find it difficult, or how do you find it easy? Tonight?
Oh, when I get back home, the only challenge, because it's I'm naturally from there, so the rest of the things come naturally. But the only challenge I figured out is sometimes you just want to speak English, even,
Yes.
and then you'll be like, why am I even speaking in English? I could be speaking in Shona or Ndebele or whichever language you speak. But otherwise, the rest of the stuff you feel, it's always good to be home. You just listen up, and I think it's not really hard to get back to our culture. And yeah, I think it comes naturally.
Yeah, it's true. And Farai, how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I might get very excited because now I can speak Shona freely, like I can say those Shona jokes and, I don't have to translate them into English because, there's a difference, when you say a joke in Shona and in English and you directly translate it, the effect is not the same. So I get really excited, to be having traditional food because it's not readily available here. So I get really excited, but then there's other things, maybe I'll go on a bit of a side quest, but there's other things that are, like perhaps maybe the way things are very, you can instantly access things. And so there's a bit of that difference where when you're back home, you can't just do your own thing because when you're used to doing your own thing, you kind of have to consider everyone. I live by myself. So I'm used to that, I stay by myself, I cook for myself, I do this. So when you go back home, you have to adjust to that collective thing where people just come to your house and you have to greet everyone. And, here in Australia, if someone visits you, you're just like, hey. And it isn't so collective. So I think that's something that you can find quite difficult when you go back because you're used to being by yourself, and then you go back and there's all these cultural things, I guess, that you have to do. Like when you kneel down and you say Magadi, which means how are you doing? And so you're not used to that here, where you just say hi or good day to whoever, So yeah, those can be difficult things, but yeah, not too difficult, I guess. Like Tendai said, it's easy to just spring back. Yeah.
I see a comment there. Letty said we have already started the Easter bunny hunting, the Easter egg hunting. We have already started following Easter egg hunt activities now. It's something that we never used to do when we were still back home. Interesting. So yeah, guys, in terms of we're talking about cultures and other things. What about food in terms of, because there's some type of foods that we're used to. In the back home. How are you finding it there? And, how is it, before I go ahead, Lien said, those in the diaspora don't teach their kids our culture. Then when you come back, you say, "I, grandma." So Lien is actually saying we are not teaching our kids where we're coming from. We want them to adapt, which is interesting. It's an interesting point because at the end of the day, you also want your child to gel in with where you are staying, and you also want your child to know where you came from. How difficult is it? That one I'll take it to Tendai first because she's raising a daughter, and you're raising a daughter in a foreign land. How are you managing to teach your child to be able to adapt in the foreign land, and also not forgetting where she came from?
Okay, it's a bit difficult and easy at the same time. I don't know, but I would say I just have rules in the house. We speak a certain way. present ourselves a certain way. Even if somebody comes and visits, she knows you must say hello in a respectful way, not just hi and walk away. So I'm very strict in that regard. So how I do it is when we're at home, we just do rules at home. But when they're at school, of course, I allow her to be herself, because you don't want to burden a child sometimes, because of certain rules which are okay outside. So I just have this thing of when we're at home, you do what you have to do, and when you're at school. But I still explain a lot about our culture, because she also asks, is it how we do it? For example, Easter here, they make eggs a few days before. You boil the eggs, you buy a basket, and then you paint the eggs, and then you must put them in a certain place that way on Easter morning you take them. So it's quite a routine. And she wants to know if we do it at home. So I just explained to her that, okay, this is different, a little bit different from how we do it, but it's not bad for her to try those things. So I think it's just about striking a balance between what you practice at home and what they learn at school, and be clear with your children what they can do and what they can't do. But it's also good to let them also learn a lot in the environment they live in at the moment.
Yeah. All right, your views?
Well, I'm not raising any kids yet, but yeah, I think, just from the experience.
From experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's hard to, I mean, your question, I would just go back to your question. So how do I guess, strike a balance between
Yes, how do you strike a
living
balance?
here?
Yeah, when you're here with your children or your siblings as well, or your how do you strike a balance in a foreign land and be able to teach with your siblings or your child where you came from?
Okay. Well, I'll just I'll draw out what my aunt does, because I've got an aunt who's raised her kids here, who's raising her kids here. I just like the fact that when they're at home, they remember that we are like, it's like they go back home, but they're in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
The moment they go outside, they're back in Australia. They're back where this, back blending into the culture. But she always makes sure that when they're home, they're speaking in Shona. They're used to eating their cultural food and not ashamed of it, and can easily go out there and show people and say, like, this is what we eat. It's not weird. So I think that's my view is just, I guess, I think that's a good balance. But I'm not quite sure. I think that's as far as my opinion goes.
All right, interesting. So as we go on with our conversation, I mean, I just want to find out from you guys. There's certain things. I mean, the challenges. Let's say now we spoke about the home challenges. We spoke about work. What about in terms of religions? I mean, where you were going to a certain school. I mean, it's a certain church, and when you get there, probably the church is there, but the way they do things is a little bit different from the way you were doing things at back home. How do you find yourself in those situations, and how do you come out of the situations, especially when it comes to religion?
For me, to be honest, I haven't gone to physical, maybe once, to physical church, but I've always been comfortable streaming. Like, I've been watching church online, because I used to live in South Africa, and this church I was going there have online services and streaming. So this is where I've just been going. But of course, there's my challenge with religion comes in at school with my child, because at school they're told certain values. They call them family values, and they are mostly Catholic, which I don't have a problem with. But then I have to come back home and explain some things to the child. But generally, I stream online. I have any issues with religion. It's just how it is. Yeah.
But are you not confusing the child, Tendai? Because at the end of the day, when she comes home and she tells you, okay, we've been taught this, and this is this is not what you want. How do you go around that? Because at the end of the day, she wants to know why you don't agree to certain things, and she wants to go back to school and be able to do what she's told to do at school and strike the balance. Because remember, it's a child. As a child, how as a parent, how do you go around that?
Well, the ultimate thing is to tell the child that, we pray to one God, and sometimes the beliefs are different, and how we pray is different, but this is how we do it at home, at school. And I've had challenges when the teacher said, okay, she must stop coming to this because, she has a different belief. But I was like, it's very difficult when it comes to religion, but ultimately we just have to teach the child to be a Christian, and that we pray to one God, even though it can be different. But there, I really have a challenge. This is why myself, I just comfortable with streaming, because you don't get to, you just get to the service, do what you do, and you're out. Yeah.
All right. Letimuko there said she used to go to a church where, talking about churches, I used to attend a church where you could see people outside smoking as they wait for the church to start, which I never knew it would happen in a church environment. Farai, what's your take on that one? Interesting.
Yeah. So, because in Zimbabwe, most people are predominantly Christian. So it was very interesting for me to get here, and people are like, no, I'm an atheist, and I'd never come across anyone who's atheist, really. And it was very difficult because at some point I would question my faith and be like, do I need to? But then, I do go to physical church now. And, the church here, the one that I go to, it's very chilled. So when we started singing, I remember the first day I got to church, people started singing and they were on attention. So they were like looking at the screen and singing. And I was already clapping, I was doing the whole, what we do in Africa where, it's very jovial and then people just looked at me weird, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I had a friend from the islands. So people from the islands they have a culture kind of similar to Africa. So she was like, sorry, I did that, but they don't do that here. And I was like, oh, okay. So, it's one of those things that you learn, and people at church always talk to me about it and say, oh, I remember you because you're the girl that was clapping and dancing. It actually played a part in me getting, involved in my church and getting friends there. So, religion is a very interesting topic, and like Tendai said, religion isn't, or Christianity most religions aren't seen as relevant anymore. It started sort of being moved away in like first world countries. So it's very shocking when you're so used to it's how you grow up in Zimbabwe, and you get here and people are telling you, I don't know what church is, and they tell you all these things that help make you question your faith. So I totally agree with her that she always has to explain afterwards and sort of, I guess, defend her faith for her daughter when she comes back. So yeah, that's just my opinion. That's my experience.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Sometimes it's actually difficult when you're trying to teach someone a different, some cultures, and yet you also want to gel in and be able to be part of that community. It's actually interesting. It's like you want to dominate and you still want to learn. How do you feel about that? I mean, you're trying to be part of these people, and you also want to teach them how you were raised or how you value yourself. How do you see things as they are in terms of cultures? How do you get around it? I mean, I think it's a little bit difficult, mostly when it comes to the work environment, because you meet a lot of different people. That is, if you're going to work physically now, how do you go around that tonight?
To be honest, in the society that I'm in, it's very difficult for me to show, well, I can, through integrating and, we have this kind of, we can show off food, we can do some things like that. But I also learned one thing about the people in the society that I am. They have a very reserved way of life. So everybody keeps themselves a lot. And then it took me time to understand why is it like this. Apparently it comes from history, from the communist periods and stuff. So I got to understand that they are not so open because they are like that. But after some time, it just takes them a lot of time to get used to you, to be able now to really open for you to like share table or share food. So I think the most important thing is to first establish friendships, learn and respect the other culture for them to respect yours. So if you say, suppose you don't agree with something, you have to understand why they do that, which you don't do, and then for them also to do the same, they should understand you. So it takes a lot of integration, it takes a lot of initiative, it takes a lot of effort. But yeah, I think it takes time, but very doable.
Yeah, as much as you say that, Tendai, as much as you say that, you know, sometimes it's difficult when you try to learn things and especially at work, and then you know that these people are not going to change just because of you. It's quite difficult. Farai, how do you see that, especially in a work environment?
Well, one thing I've noticed, there's things that I can't. So, like Tinda said, there's things that you can't change, and there's things that you can. But then, when it comes to work, for example, dressing, like, you know, there's a certain expectation they have of how people should dress in a workplace. And, you know, I'm from Zimbabwe, you know, and the culture depends on the culture of the workplace as well. Some workplaces are like very casual. And that's one thing about Australia that I saw, like people can just walk in with like t-shirt and like, not in my workplace though, but like people can just work in a t-shirt and like shorts and like some like flip-flops, and they'll be like, yeah, and you hear their profession and you're like, oh, okay. And anyway, that's beside the point. But that's a very difficult question, actually. But how do you integrate? Well, you sort of have to remember who you are. At the end of the day, you have to remember that, well, not saying that everyone should, but I always remind myself that I should remember who I am and where I'm from, and that, you know, as much as I would try and blend in with certain things, and that there's certain values that I have within myself that I say, I'm not going to cross over into these things. To be honest, I don't know if I've answered this question properly, but I hope so. I hope I have. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it's hard to integrate, but you should always just remember who you are and where you're from. And, you know, like, for example, dressing, I used to be quite ashamed to be wearing my African prints because, you know, people used to say, oh, don't wear anything that's too outstanding or anything, you know, any weird colors. But then I just realized, I walked into work one day with an African dress and no one said anything. Then people were actually like, oh, is that from your culture? And they were actually interested in knowing like what we wear. I mean, we don't have any traditional dress in Zimbabwe, but we probably do, but we don't have like, yeah, I think you understand. But we, you know, that just that general African. And so people are starting to appreciate and respect what you do in your culture. And, you know, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Can you just bring back Elson Dumba's comment there? I just want to read it out before I go further. Elson Dumba's comment there, I found it very interesting. I think it's not about adapting. We cannot change the way we are. Can you just bring it back again? All right, while I'm waiting for that, I think it's not about adapting. We cannot change who we are, but we only integrate by accepting our differences. I don't know what you guys think about it. Okay, before I give it to you guys, I just want to share also my experience in a work environment. So I was coming from a background, a work environment where we used to wear a tie and a jacket. It was a must. And I came to this environment, this new environment, and I was doing the same. You know, people were looking at me and laughing at me and saying, because people come to work with shorts. I mean, people come to work with slops, you know. And I found myself alone with a tie, you know, and everything, you know. So yeah, before going any further, I just want to welcome Tosin. Tosin, welcome. We are in the conversation. I'll give it to you before I give it to the ladies. Just introduce yourself and take us through.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Tendai, Farai, and Lennon. First of all, I'm sorry for coming in late. I had to round up a meeting. I started
Okay.
an event. So, yeah, my name is Tosin Yusuf. I'm popularly called Calculus. Um, I'm an engineer, or let me say, I was an engineer because I'm currently a student. But I practiced before I left Nigeria. So, I'm a graduate student here in Germany studying metallurgical engineering. Yeah, so it's very excited to be here because the meeting is supposed to last for 2 hours. So, but because of I'm always passionate about anything Africa, Nigeria, so I have to just try to make it a date here too as well to join you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I was just going on with my comment where I said I used to come from an environment where I used to wear a tie and a jacket. It was a must. So I came back. I came to this environment, this new environment where people used just to walk in and wear the way they wanted, and in an office environment. And I could do the same like what I used to do. And people were saying, "But why do you put yourself like in prison? Because why are you wearing a tie and all these things?" And at the end of the day, I changed. I changed. I'm doing the same now. I can also go to the office with shorts, which is it's part of adapting. I'll just take it to Tosin now. How are you finding it in Germany in terms of culture? Knowing that you're coming from a background where there is deep culture in terms of Nigerian culture,
Yeah.
and how are you finding it in Germany in terms of gelling with other people as well?
First of all, the major difference about the culture is the language.
Yeah.
Yeah, the language we speak English in Nigeria and here. Although they will say the business language is English, and my studies.
It seems like his network is catching up with him. Farai,
Yeah.
you can just take us through that last comment I did from Elson, where he was saying it's not about adapting sometimes. Do you agree with that? I think it's not about adapting. We cannot change who we are, but we can only integrate by accepting our differences. Your take on that?
I'd say, I think it's good to not to change who you are, but I don't think adaptation is necessarily you compromising or changing who you are. I think it's you looking at the environment that you're in and seeing how you can, I don't know, I feel like they're a bit different. I think, yeah, I can integrate into the Australian sort of culture by doing what they do, or necessarily not even doing everything they do, the basics, and then still be myself. So I can be the African girl who's pitching up in Afro, at a very Australian bush dance. So
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I can still be myself, but don't necessarily, and still adapt. So I
All
don't
right.
know if, yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that answers you, or I don't know,
No,
convinces
it's okay.
you also.
Nadine said integration swings both ways. Adapting does not mean compromising. The only anchor, personally, should be anchored around internal governance, and that is based on internal values, internal value system, and personal conviction. Tendai, your comment on this one, on Nadine's comment?
Yes, it's not compromising, yes, but there are some things. For instance, if you live in a place for too long, not there's nothing like too long, but for very long, I feel like there are some things that you will be adapting, but it may be at some point you will actually they may become a bit of your internal conviction, because this is something that you've been doing time and again, time and again, time and again. So yes, she's right, but sometimes with time things change, I think. So it's a win-win. I think it depends on many factors, age and stuff. For people that are younger, they may end up actually, sliding into a different culture. But for people that are older, who are in this different culture, later on, then we can maintain personal conviction and so on. Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, Tosin. I'm sure your network is back now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just continue you left, if you still remember.
Yeah. Sorry, because I have. So that it's really good that we are connecting now, so that I'll be able to select the best internet. I have like 2 or 3, so I'm using the best one now. Sorry.
Okay.
So like I was saying, the language is the first major difference. So that will be the major challenge when moving to a place like Germany or non-English speaking country. But so in my first, let me say, first few 4 months or 6 months, what I did was I was able to look for the African or Nigerian community where I know I will be able to ask questions and to be able to know how things are done here, because without that's the first thing I always tell people: when you get to a new environment, look for a community like that you understand people, yeah, you understand your culture, you understand how they think, you understand how you think as well. So because it can be traumatizing and sometimes depressing when you want you find yourself in a very new environment and you want to even buy as maybe water. Sometimes you don't know how, you get to the shop and they can't understand what you're saying, you understand. So the first thing is to look for what I did was to get a community of Nigerian people who I know I can easily run to if anything. So
And Vusi disagrees with that. Vusi disagrees with that. He said you cannot go to a certain country and then you start doing your Nigerian stuff or wherever you're coming from. You need to adapt to whatever is happening there. So he's actually saying you can't adapt a Nigerian culture when you are living in Germany. We are in Germany, you adapt the German culture. However, as I mentioned in my other comment, please, people confuse between culture and tradition. Culture is dynamic and tradition is static. You see, so they are saying when you go there, live your Nigerian culture in Nigeria, and then try to learn German culture because that's where you're living. That's where your life is starting now. So I don't know, guys. Your take on this one, Tedai? They are saying you must leave our culture wherever you're coming from.
Well, tradition is something that we keep that is static, like he's saying, but culture is dynamic, like he's saying. So culture, I agree with him, actually. That's what I was mentioning before, that you can come with certain culture, but then the environment you won't allow you to do the things that you were doing there, because now things are different. Now things are different. I'll take, for example, I'll go off a bit, like dating in different culture. Like here, I expect a lot of people that I know date online. You just open it up and you date online, because this is just how people meet. You can't go out there and somebody approaches you even if they like you. But we believe that, okay, maybe you meet somewhere or you want, so it's just the dynamism of culture, because now you're going to wait for somebody to approach you out there, but it won't happen. So I think I agree with Vusi that tradition is just there, but culture changes, and you just have to adapt. Yeah.
Okay. Before I go back to Tosin, I want to hear from Farai. Just hold on, Tosin. Let's hear what Farai thinks about this comment, and then I'll come back to Tosin.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Because like if you in Africa, beating a child is normal. But here it's like if the child calls protective services, then you're going to jail. So so I agree. I do agree.
Okay. All right. Tosin?
Yeah, I quite agree as well, because culture is is like is basically environment where where you have spent too much of your time, like you're coming from where you spend almost like 15-20 years of your life. So it's just about what is happening around. It's like unconsciously you just tend to do what you see people doing. It's not like we don't learn culture in school. We learn it from the environment. So if you move to a new environment and you're spending time there with time, you tend to do the things they are doing and the way they do it. You understand? So I think I agree with what the comment the person said. Yeah.
All right. And Tendai brought an interesting topic there. I would love to tap into it a little bit. Yeah, she spoke about dating. That's one part. That's one most important part when it comes to like foreign countries. Obviously, when you want to date, the way that you used to do wherever you were, it will be a little bit different. How do you maneuver into that, knowing that okay, where we are, it's only an online dating, and you are used to like physical, where you walk in a shopping mall and someone say, okay, hey, can I talk to you? Something like that. How do you go about it in a new environment? Okay, especially in Australia, I would like to hear from Faraya. How do they do it? I mean, how is it different? Did you find it weird or did you find it interesting? How did you find it in terms of dating? The way they do it there in wherever you are, Farai.
I'm low-key panicking because I think my dad is watching, but I'll answer very honestly. So anyway, I think in Zimbabwe, like Tendai said, like like you said as well, Lyndon, that someone goes and then a conversation starts going. Whereas here, like people rarely do that. People meet at restaurants. So a lot of people meet online still, but I've noticed that there's like a people love going out for dinner, for restaurants. You will have lots of pubs and people will go there and have a drink or have some food. So that's where people are most likely. That's where you most likely will meet people. And so where it's very difficult. So you start to think, like maybe they don't like Black people or whatnot, but it's just because you don't know how the dynamics work. And then until you know what happens or how things happen, then that's when you get into the system. Yeah.
All right.
That's all I have to say about this.
Justin, the German culture, how is it treating you in terms of dating? How have you found it? I mean, how did it go? How is it
well, I've not really explored that area, but what I can say is I think it's totally different from what's happening in Nigeria actually, because it's very weird to just go outside and you see someone, except you see an African, you see someone, you see the girl, except the girl is an African, you'll be confident to approach her and talk to her. The only reason why you can stop a German is maybe you want to ask question, maybe direction or something. You wouldn't have such idea of, oh, this girl is beautiful, how can she be mine? You understand? So but you can, maybe with time you can talk to her via WhatsApp, via whatever platform online. It's very weird to meet someone. Then another major difference here is that back home, when you date and you go out for shopping or at the restaurant, like the girl expect, or even the man expect, that he will be the one to foot the bill, but here in Germany, it's like an insult to the girl. We go out together, you hate your food, I hate mine, and you want to pay for me. Like it's so like an insult. So you can see it's like polar opposite of what's happening in America. So you just have to take your time to to learn and not lose someone you like because of difference in culture. You understand?
So you actually feel like if you pay, then you can win the girl. It's interesting because I mean I would feel the same way. That I mean, when I take you out, I like to pay for you, like what you used to what you normally do when we home. And I mean it's obvious. I mean, a girl is expecting you to pay when you take a girl out, but now you are in a foreign land. these people they do it different. Now the bill is in front of you. Now you say, okay, I'll pay. Now you say no. I feel insulted, because I'm used to this and I want to pay. Today, would you be comfortable? I mean, okay, you're a lady. Would you be comfortable in paying the bill? 50-50, or just paying the whole bill yourself?
Yes, I actually learned that sometimes you have to pay here because you're dealing with different people. So now it's normal. I'll just take out my card and then I will let the guy maybe say, okay, I'll pay, don't worry. But you have to show some kind of initiative that you can pay. Yeah, it was quite interesting to learn that as well.
Okay, yeah. All right. All right. Would you pay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so used to taking my card out, like Tendai said, and then just like, people actually fight to pay for the bill. So so it's quite interesting. But I've noticed that it's a blend of that African kind of culture where the guy pays and then the Western way of people fighting over the bill. So it's a bit of a mix here in Australia. But yeah. Usually people would just go 50-50 and then people go their separate ways.
All right. Before I ask each and everyone to give us your parting shots, I would like to read Vusi's comment again. He wrote another interesting piece there. Culture is controlled by a lot of factors like personal, political, economic, social, technological, legal factors. Example, legislation can restrict you from doing certain things you will be doing in Zimbabwe, and in your new country it could be illegal. Okay. All right. I don't know, you guys. Before you give us your parting shots, a comment on Vusi's comment there, and then you just give us a parting shot. I will start with Tendai, your parting shot and your comment on Vusi's piece.
I think culture, yes, there are so many factors influencing culture, like you said, but there is something which is natural in a person. That what the other comment said, that one, like internal conviction. So yes, there are things that will change you, but there's some part of you that you identify as that will keep you in place somehow, so that you're not swept away. You have to. There's a certain thing. I think that's the traditional aspect that keeps you in place, even though some surroundings change. You must adapt to some surroundings, but something keeps you. And I think this is a very interesting topic that we had, and there's a lot to discuss. And I think this was an interesting discussion. Hope we'll have another one of this one again in future.
Definitely. Tosin, your parting shots?
First, I quite agree with the last comments about culture being affected by different factors, most especially religion and legal system, because some things that you do back home that are allowed, is not allowed in some other places. So first of all, you have to know the legal terrain and be able to you have to adapt. So because you are there, so and this is also a very, like Tendai said, it's the best time we are discussing this because there is high influx of immigrants now. So
all right. I'll give it to Farah. Okay. All right. You can go ahead, Tosin. I thought your network was down.
Yeah. So learn how to adapt and be prepared, that there's something different where they're going to. So it will help the humanity a lot. Thanks for bringing this on.
Thank you. Farah, your parting shots?
I would just touch on Solo Vusi saying that culture is controlled by like a number of factors, like for example, political, people here are very open to expressing their political view, whereas in some countries or in Africa, you can't just express your political view as quickly. So and then there's also social things like in Africa, when someone falls, I don't know if it's similar across all African countries, but when someone falls, your first instinct might be to laugh at your friend if it's your friend who's fallen. But here it's like, oh no, it's so sad. How could you do that? And then you have technological things where there's a lot of technological advances. So people here they do their own groceries, so they check their groceries out and they actually pay for them, and you get very minimum supervision, and they trust people enough to do their own groceries and pay for them on this machine and leave. So some people actually take groceries for free. They do the illegal things. But yeah, you start to see how all those things just sort of affect how you can sort of get into the culture. So it takes a bit of time to just sort of blend in. But otherwise, that was just a little comment that I wanted to put out there to say that, it's to agree, but also just parting. I just wanted to say this has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I'm glad it was very interactive, and I got to learn more about where other people are from and what's happening. And so yeah, really enjoyed this conversation.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation. It's always good to hear other people's views, what they think, and also learning the different cultures out there in different countries is very important. It's also important, to tolerate whenever you are, wherever you are. It's also important to tolerate other people and not being selfish, because you also want to learn, and you're also in different parts of the world where people see things differently from where we come from. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you, Tendai. Thank you, Farai and Tosin. It's always good to have you on the show. Hopefully, we'll bring you back again. To the viewers, thank you so much for such interactive comments. It's been great having you as well in the terraces. Thank you so much. And from myself and the Baobab Chat team, I say good day for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.